What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. I am the Hobbyist, and today we're going to be installing a new motor into my Axial Scx24 Chevy C10. This is the Hot Racing 66-turn high torque motor with the 11-tooth brass pinion gear. So we're going to put that in, and I'll show you all the steps required in order to install this motor. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So to start off, let's take a look at the motor itself. As I mentioned, this is the Hot Racing 66-turn high torque motor. It comes with stickers even, but this is a 050 size motor. As you can see, it's a bit longer, and it's also got a very, very long cable, but this will plug directly into the Axial RX receiver ESC unit. You can see it has two holes right there. They look the same as the stock motor, but they are slightly different, and of course it comes with a metal pinion gear, which is really nice. So now let's start disassembling the Scx24 to get it installed. So to start off, you can either remove the body or just lift it up. I have to have a pencil here because I've got the RC4 drive inner fenders. And we're going to clip these zip ties that I actually put in because they're for the lighting system. So you might not have those, but you do need to be aware that you will be having to unscrew the battery tray in order to get to the transmission. And in order to do that, there are 4 screws on the chassis. Once you've removed those 4 screws, the battery tray should just pop out like so. Now, if you look right here, this support has to be cut off in order for the motor to fit. So I'm going to just take some wire cutters and clip that off. But before I do that, let's take a look at the exposed transmission. As you can see, the motor is right there, and the transmission is held in by 1 screw on top and 2 screws underneath on the skid plate right here. So removing those, you can get the transmission out. Once you've unscrewed those 3 screws, you need to unplug the motor from the ESC RX unit, and then the transmission just comes out. You might have to twist to get the drive shafts to disengage. But once you have that, you can set out the truck aside and focus just on the transmission. So in order to get to the motor mounting screws, you're going to have to remove this front drive shaft right here. And to do that, you're going to need your hex tool. Now I've got the Dynamite hex tool tips, which is very nice, but you can use the Allen keys, it doesn't really matter. Once you remove that, it's a very tiny screw, then this will just slide off like that. Now you can set that aside. Now you need to get the motor cover off, this piece here. And to do that, there are 2 screws in the back right here and here. And this is the same size hex tool, so you just unscrew these like so. And doing this, you can get that cover off and actually focus on getting the motor off. With that screw removed, the cover just comes right off, and now you can see our pinion and spur gear, both plastic. Now, looking really closely, you can see that the motor is held on by 2 screws, one here and one here, but it's hidden behind the spur gear, so you have to take that off. So the nut that holds the spur gear on is the same size nut that holds your wheels on. So if you have one of those right now, you can do that. You might have to hold on to one of the gears to keep the spur gear from rotating, but as you can see, I got it off just fine, and that slides right off like so. See, plastic spur gear. Make sure that the thick part is facing down because that's the part that goes towards the transmission. Now that you've got that removed, you can remove the motor screws. Now this takes the same size hex tool as you've been using so far, and you just need to unscrew the plates. So after you do that, then you just slide out the motor like so. Taking a look at the motor, you can see it's pretty small. Putting it up against the Hot Racing motor, it is significantly longer. It's also a much higher turn count. Now if we look at them from the front, you can see what I was talking about with the holes. The Hot Racing motor has the holes positioned in the reverse direction. Now Hot Racing sells a plate for it, but honestly that's just a bit too much in my opinion, when you can just drill out the holes yourself. So that's what we're going to do on this transmission. Now the way I did it was draw up a template and then used a very small drill bit to cut 2 new slotted holes in the transmission. And as you can see now, when I put the motor into the transmission, it will line up very nicely. Take a look. You can see now that the motor holes line up very, very well. So now I just need to put the 2 screws back in to hold the motor on. And with that and the spur gear reinstalled, take a look. It is now in a very nice fit. The motor cover still fits over there just fine, so that all fits nicely. So it's now time to reassemble it and install it back into the truck. But there is one more thing we need to do. Remember the battery tray? We need to cut this support piece off right here. So I'm using some wire cutters right here. Just clip it off. Might have to brute force it, but it's thin plastic. So as you can see, cuts right off. And now you've made more space for the motor to fit in. As you can see right here, it fits over there nicely now. And with that, you can see the motor fits in there very nicely. Putting it all together again, the throttle still works just fine. The motor is a bit noisier, but hopefully we get better performance with that. So let's find out if it performs better. So as you guys saw, the hot racing motor clearly outperformed the axial motor. This motor has way more torque. It is a little bit slower than stock, but for crawler, that's all right. But anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment in the section below for what videos you'd like to see next. But that's all for today, and I'll see you in the next one.